And away we go. Tuesday program here in the Tower Chrysler Studios. Boomer and Pinder. What a show. What a show. No retro today. He is in Florida. And we believe
Wait a minute.
We believe he's going to be on the ice at some point. He's not on the ice today. There's Mark Prince. What's happening, retro? What's happening?
Oh, it's beautiful down here. 81 degrees. We're in Pompano Beach. It's just lovely. Lovely.
You're a son of a bitch, eh? That looks unbelievable.
So
Isn't that
is
nice?
This a it is beautiful.
Damn it.
Is this a sanctioned NHL All-Star event, or are you venturing out on your own?
This is an early start. There's some stuff on Fort Lauderdale Beach later tonight. We're going to head over to the Whales Rib, have some lunch, listen to you guys talk sports, get some insight from Soroka. It's going to be great.
I believe that.
Yeah, it will be great. So how excited are you for the Whales Rib? When's the last time you were there?
He's been talking about this forever.
I know he has.
Yeah.
Couple years now. I got to go have Turkey Key West or maybe a pastrami Key West, the lobster bisque. It's going to be deadly.
He's so excited.
He's so excited.
Oh,
Is this like How was Jasper? Did you guys hurt yourselves?
No.
Wolverine did.
We bloodied one of the Oilers Nation guys. We cut his chin right open.
Yeah.
And Wolverine, heavy concussion, but, you know, he's kind of half concussed all the time anyway. I don't know. It's pretty normal.
Straight out.
Yeah. Third game, he decided not to wear a helmet, kind of fell over, conked his head, and he had that look. I don't know what concussed looks like,
But that's the look.
but it was the look.
Yeah.
It's like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I'm good.
You're fucking not
Boys.
good, dude. You're a mess.
Left his stick right in the middle of the playing surface. Like, dude, you're not okay.
You're a disaster. So,
Okay, well, we'll keep you just for another minute or two, and then we'll let you go. Look at your big donkey kid behind you. God, how tall is he?
it's very tall. I got music going on. Am I allowed to have music in the background? It's not my music.
Sure. Okay, so today is Tuesday. When is the alumni game that you're taking part in?
Yeah, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be heavily. It's hard to get tickets right now. It's hard to get tickets.
Yeah,
Mostly because it's at the practice rink, and they don't really have seats. So
That's probably a good reason for it. Now, playing with sunburn, I'm sure you've done this before. What are some of the keys and techniques that you'll be sharing with the other guys?
you just lather up. It's like going into a fight, Pinder. You have lots of Vaseline. It slides right off your face.
Well, it's good to see you're coping. It's good to know that everything's
He's
okay.
a great
You guys
spirits. He's
wanna-
looking good. That's summer.
You want me to
right
flip the
there,
phone around and so you can see where I'm going?
Give us a little pan here.
Yeah.
Give us a
Flip it sideways
Hang on.
for starters.
Yeah, sideways
And
and
then,
then.
Okay. Sideways is good. Oh,
That's
not
better.
that
Yeah.
good.
Oh, look at this.
Much better. Yeah.
Wow. And that looks good, eh?
No, I should.
Jeez.
Hey, family, if you want in.
This is quite
Right.
big he's got.
We're leaving the beach. We're leaving the beach area. We're headed to the Rib. Whales Rib
Oh,
is
man,
just
it's right
across the street there. I'll walk you guys over there. It's going to be good. Anything
Okay.
going on in Calgary?
So
Is there no sports?
it's pretty quiet right now.
That's the bye week, right?
Yeah, it's a bye week. There's still games being played, apparently. Winnipeg played or something last night.
Yeah, Morrissey again. Unbelievable.
But
Buffalo
But no,
plays
we're,
tomorrow night.
yeah, we're coping. Yeah, there's still games until tomorrow.
3 today, 2 tomorrow, and then into the break, I believe. Yeah.
Are people very excited for the All-Star game?
I don't know. We got in late last night, so we're not. It doesn't seem to be a lot of signage for the All-Star game around here. I think they're focused more in the Fort Lauderdale area, so we're a little bit north of that. But
All right.
So
I
you
don't
being
know.
a big name Florida Panther alumni, did they
That's right.
fly the whole family out and room and meals is all taken care of, or how does that work?
yeah, no per diem. No, they know how much I eat, so
Yeah.
no per diem. They didn't fly the family. Had to fly everybody else. Damn kids cost
jeez.
money. Whole
Yeah.
row. All right, here it is. We're here, the world famous, or at least the Rhettster famous Wales rib.
This is, you know what? This is we've worked together for over a decade. This is a big thing.
Yeah.
I have heard more about the Wales rib than any other restaurant in the world.
Probably true. Yeah.
And there it is.
Wow.
Hey?
It's very
Oh, yeah.
much
Imagine
Rhett dive bar
coming in
vibes.
here
Look
with
at this.
Brian Scrudland and guys.
Yeah.
License plates on the wall,
Look at that.
flags, Christmas lights.
They got a walleye.
Is that a walleye? You big walleye up on the wall?
Oh, he's so happy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
We can't take
find.
any more of his time here.
I'm trying to find. There was a Brian. There's a picture of us in here somewhere, but I don't know where it is. So.
Take a picture and
All
send
right,
it to us if
you've
you
been-
find it, all right?
You've been to the Wales rib. I'll talk to you later.
Awesome.
See you,
Enjoy
buddy.
it.
Have fun.
Will we get you tomorrow? Big game day, right? We'll get you tomorrow?
Yeah, just before my pregame nap, I'll tune in.
Awesome. Perfect.
Brilliant. Love
All
it.
right.
See you, buddy.
I need and you know what? I need a full list of what you're going to eat. I need the full list of what you're eating afterwards, because I know it's going to just be waves of food coming. So make sure you keep track.
Yeah. Okay.
There he is.
See
All right.
ya.
Thanks, Red. Retro down in Florida.
Jealous.
How can't you be?
Yeah.
Yeah. How can't you be? Awesome.
It's summer there. That's not fair.
Always.
Yeah, it was like -11 here or something. Heat up the truck before we take the turds to school. And there's kids on bicycles out there with short shorts. Come on.
And you know who else is going to be down there? And you'll be jealous of him, is Frank Seravalli, our NHL insider.
Soon enough. That's right. Yeah.
He was in Jasper, Edmonton, Philadelphia, and now is going to be going down to Florida. Frank joins us here on the Tuesday edition.
Look at this. This is a carousel of hotshot guests.
I just
today.
need to fire up the DJ Pinder here. Just for our faithful viewers and listeners, this was my first extended run getting the Pinder experience. And I want to let you all know that it is exactly what you thought it might be. Exactly.
Yeah, there's no exaggeration. What you hear on this show, oh, you guys really, it's exactly what happens.
It's not boring.
It's high
that's
kicks.
my
it's,
commitment to
It's
you.
dancing.
It's never boring.
It's a rave. It's a constant rave when you're around Pinder. Because I get the same remarks. I will show stuff on social media or whatever. And people, well, he really is like that. Hey, I kind of thought maybe it was a bit.
no off button, is
there's
there?
no bit. There is no bit whatsoever.
I turned to Frank on the Friday and it was quite late, maybe around 2 or something. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, this is my place. I can't sleep till everyone leaves. Like, right, okay. And a little word to everyone, and 5-10 minutes we'd cleared out of there.
Yeah. I was really hoping to find that video. I don't know where I saw it. I know I saw it, but the jubilation for Frank after the wheel showed up at
Friday
about
night
1:30 a.m. on Friday.
Frank.
Look,
As the camera pans to a tower of cheese pizza with Mr. Seravalli.
You just saw our team photo and you saw the boiler on this guy. So there, like, you know that I was not an MVP of any sorts on the ice, but off the ice, I can order 5 pizzas at 1:05 in the morning. And
look at this.
Yeah.
Give him a passport. That's a Caesar, folks. With a huge piece of beef jerky on it. Oh,
that was a quality Caesar.
Yeah.
It was a $20 Caesar.
Probably worth it.
But yeah.
Depends on the exchange rate, I guess.
I guess for you, it'd be like almost like giving it to you.
Yeah,
so now you were Saturday we play 3 games in Jasper at the pond hockey. Sunday we're supposed to play. It's bitterly cold. Everyone leaves. Walk me through your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, where we talk to you now.
Yeah, it's been an adventure. I'll tell you that. And by the way, I feel like, I furthered my off-ice value by mentioning to Pinder on Saturday night. It was like, well, it is supposed to be -25 tomorrow. We're supposed to play each other in the championship game. What do we just call this a gentleman's truce and get absolutely ripped tonight? And Pinder did not require any sale on that thought whatsoever. There is no compete in that guy on the ice, but off the ice, he's like, oh, that is a blinking green light.
Yeah. There was.
It's like, are you really trying to convince me? Like, obviously, I'm in.
There's not a lot of arm twisting to get out of those Sunday games, but you had a brutal flight and the whole thing to get back to Philly.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an adventure. I mean, I tried my best to avoid Air Canada, so I went through Denver. Ended up with a 10-hour and 54-minute delay. What was supposed to be a lunchtime flight had suddenly turned into, after many hours in the Denver airport, including a nice little meal at United's expense at the Elway's Steakhouse, turned into a red eye. And so red eye get to my door at 5 of 6 this morning. And here I am talking to you guys because there's a lot happening. We had the number one player on our trade targets board traded yesterday. So there's a lot to think about and talk about.
Let's get right to it.
Yeah.
Bo Horvat leaves Vancouver, goes to the New York Islanders. I'll have you kind of describe the package because I think a lot of people were maybe underwhelmed. Maybe they're wrong to be underwhelmed. And I guess my overarching question is we're a month out. Could there not have been more value? Are they smart to deal him now? Just your thoughts on the timing and the return for Vancouver.
Yeah, I think the timing is really interesting because I had the same question. And I think a big motivating factor for the Canucks here was the idea of really having a clean break during this bye week and all-star break. And you think about the near constant drama that's surrounded this team since training camp, whether it was, Bruce Boudreau and his underwear flying on a flagpole outside of the arena for the bulk of the season, the complaints against the team off the ice, both in family court with Francesco Aquilini, their owner, and in the Human Rights Tribunal with one of their employees in Rachel Doherty, to the JT Miller drama and why did you sign this guy first? Bo Horvat has been waiting for a while. What's going to happen there? It's been one thing, the Ilya Mikheyev injury last year, playing on a torn ACL. It's been one thing after the other with this soap opera. And now to get a clean break, I think there's real value in that. But I think the question that I would ask is, would you have prolonged that drama for another 3 to 4 weeks to ensure a better return? Here's the bottom line. The Canucks and their GM and Patrick Allvin has made his bones in the scouting world. So clearly getting Atu Ratu, he's someone that, as a second round pick, they clearly are a big believer in. He's 20 years old, and so a nice future piece. They get that first round pick that's top 12 protected this year. Next year, if the pick doesn't convert, next year it slides and it's unprotected. So that certainly is something to look forward to from a Canucks perspective. They're going to be watching the Islanders closely. But when I talk to talent evaluators around the league, they size this up and say this is a limited upside deal for the Canucks. They say when you look at Beauvillier and Ratu, they believe their ceiling is as third-line players. Clearly, the Canucks don't necessarily see it that way, but if it is 2 third-line players and a first-round pick, even in a good draft year, is that enough for Bo Horvat, who they also retain 25% on, to get for your captain who's had a 31-goal magical season? I kind of understand it more from the Islanders' perspective. You may not agree with it and think that the Islanders are a good team, but they're in a spot where they've got the goalie. They struggle to score goals, so they add one of the premier goal scorers this season, and he can clearly help on their power play. Obviously, an extension is coming. I was speaking to people with knowledge of Lou Lamoriello's perspective on the deal. This would not have happened if they did not have a strong sense that an extension would be possible and likely. So expect that in the coming hours and or days. And now the Islanders are thinking, hey, we're going to roll the dice here and see if we can get in the playoffs and make our team stronger.
Okay, so I mean, I kind of don't get it for both teams. Like, to your point on Vancouver, you probably could get a little more if you waited, and we don't really know how good this package is until we see where that pick is. If it's 12 next year or 13 this year, it could be number 1 next year. We don't know those things, so it's tough to evaluate that. That'll take time. Islanders, to me, are older than they want to be and not in the playoff position they want to be. If they extend him to the type of money it's going to take to sign Bo Horvat coming off this deal, this feels like a team that's already old, that's committing a lot of money to a guy into his mid-30s again. And they already have centers like Barzal, Nelson, Pajot, Cizikas. Like, they didn't need a center, did they?
No, I kind of thought they needed a winger to play with Barzal that could just put the puck in the net. Barzal, one of the premier playmakers in the game, has 1 assist in his last 12. The Islanders have, I think, scored more than 2 goals in a game one time in their last 11. Like, it's their offense has really struggled. And to your point, an older team that is not just older, but also has a ton of term committed. A lot of their guys aren't going anywhere. So if you plug in Bo Horvat, my expectation is going to be somewhere in the 8x8 neighborhood. That, you're essentially not just doubling down from your summer with very few moves, but now tripling down on this roster. And I think their big bet is not just on Horvat, but it's actually on Ilya Sorokin and net, thinking if we're able to get in, we've got the goalie that can carry us there and do the damage necessary in the playoffs. But the Islanders, it's been a full sell, mortgage the future. That's essentially where they're at, because they haven't picked in the first round since 2019. They're obviously not going to be picking there most likely this year. So they're in a spot where they're just absolutely banking on getting in and doing some damage, not just this year, but the next few. Clearly, Lou Lamoriello believes that this team is better than what it has shown to this point.
Well, obviously, the sale is on in Vancouver. That will continue. Who are the other names on your board? Who else do you expect to go in? Is Beauvillier maybe in that group? Is there a chance that he is jettisoned out before the third as well?
Unlikely, because I think the Islanders had been trying to move Beauvillier for a while and had not been able to do so. And so that's where the cap complication actually gets a little bit more interesting for me from Vancouver's perspective. They take on Beauvillier and they just signed Kuzmenko. That's another $10 million committed to next year's cap for more wingers. So what does that do? It puts the focus squarely on Brock Besser and Connor Garland. I believe in the next 32 days leading up to the trade deadline that they're in a spot where I'd imagine talks will be picking up in a significant way on Brock Besser and Connor Garland. And so elsewhere around the league, will we see any more trades before the actual All-Star break itself? My guess is probably not, but I do have a sneaking suspicion, keep your eye on this, that the St. Louis Blues are up to something. I think their GM and Doug Armstrong is getting pretty antsy. May not be Ryan O'Reilly or Vladimir Tarasenko out of the chute, but I know they've been in some discussions about Ivan Barbashev, Nico Mikkola, as well as Noel Achari. So keep your eye on the St. Louis Blues, because they have been working hard behind the scenes to try and shake up their core.
And so to be clear, that's the Blues selling ahead of the deadline, not trying to bolster their lineup like the Islanders did in a similar spot.
That's exactly right. It's so interesting to see one team that actually probably has a better core and future when you consider Thomas and Kyrou, et cetera, certainly much younger. But maybe the one piece missing in that equation, Pinder, is the netminder.
Yeah, fair.
Blues lost their 5th straight last night.
Blew a 2-0 lead early in the
against
third.
Winnipeg.
Jeez.
So Horvat is
Marcy.
off the board. Who missed out on Bo Horvat? Which of the teams? I know there was a lot of talk about Boston, but as you see it, who really could have used Bo Horvat in the legitimate push this year?
Yeah, I really think it was Boston. I think there were other teams in on Horvat that are non-playoff teams. Like I think Columbus probably would have offered a similar package back. Maybe someone like Jack Roslovic would have been in the deal for Vancouver. But in this case, I just think of the idea of having this team that's been so almost perfect this year in Boston, although they've lost 3 straight, are in a spot where they can really make magic happen. This is a team with last dance vibes. And you can see the torch being passed from Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci right to Bo Horvat. You re-sign David Pasternak. That's getting a lot closer. My guess is that deal starts with a 12. And you're in a spot where, you can, have a chance to win now and increase your chances by adding someone like Horvat. And then you keep that championship window open next season with Horvat, Pasternak, Lindholm on the back end, McAvoy. Olmark's been great in net. Like you can see the Bruins remaining really good for a long time, even after Bergeron and Krejci decide to hang up their skates. So that to me was the one team that, maybe they didn't necessarily have the assets. That's the one thing about this Canucks perspective, is that They wanted current NHL ready players that they can plug into their lineup, even though Ratu is going to Abbotsford. Beauvillier was someone that they want to plug in because they want to retool, not rebuild. And so maybe they kind of get the best of both worlds as well with that first round pick.
Where's Carolina at now that Max Pacioretty is out again? It felt like that was going to be that one deadline ad that they didn't need to worry about because there he was, and now he's out for the rest of the season. Long term, we can worry about that later. But the Hurricanes, tops in the Metro, where are they sitting right now?
Yeah, I believe, by the way, Pacioretty had surgery on that Achilles last week in Finland, which is interesting. Where are they at? They are in a spot where I thought Horvat would have been a fit there. They're in desperate need of a second-line center. Stastny has filled in admirably there. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, despite the 8-year deal at $30+ million, has not panned out to this point. He is not a championship caliber 2C. And so that's where I thought Horvat could have slotted in. They clearly had discussions, but they're in a spot where, again, the Canucks want roster players. Who are you plucking from that team? And the Canucks aren't giving up their very top prospects to make something like this happen. So they're not giving up Seth Jarvis or Netchash or any of these other guys that Vancouver certainly would have been interested in. So maybe not so much to play with heading back in return to Vancouver. And that is where I think their focus is going to remain, on that second line center. I think they've been vaguely linked to Timo Meier. I don't necessarily see it. And today we have our deadline countdown series continuing on dailyfaceoff.com, profiling Patrick Kane today. And so Kane, everyone's been linking, just a side note here, everyone's been linking Kane to the Rangers. The Rangers' number one target is Timo Meier. So not Patrick Kane at this point. I'm going to be fascinated to see how that plays out with Patrick Kane.
What do the Avs do at center? They lost Kadri, and I don't know that you're going to hang a banner if it's Compher or Newhook or Rodriguez as a second-line center. I sort of thought they should have been in the Bo Horvat market. They also have all 3 of their next 3 first-rounders. I thought they'd be more depleted than that.
Yeah, they do have draft capital, and I would imagine that the Colorado Avalanche are going to be at least pursuing a conversation with Jonathan Toews when the time is right, because he just makes perfect sense. It's not just the championship pedigree, but I think if you're Toews and the ability or opportunity to join a team like that now has found itself again as they begin to get healthy, that was always the danger if you were one of those wild card teams trying to get in, is the Avs could clearly rip off 12 straight wins and no one would blink. Now with Toews, maybe a chance to go there gives you a shot in the arm that rejuvenates your play a little bit, because to this point in the season, he started off pretty hot scoring-wise, but has really fallen off in a big way. You see his body language, the frustration. It hasn't looked good. I think he's ready to go, but I think he wants to go to a place where he has an authentic chance to win, and I think Colorado, no doubt, is that. The key is, how interested are the Avs? But I think on paper, if you think that you're getting a guy in Jonathan Toews who was anywhere close to the 2015 version, well, then you've got yourself a home run.
I guess just a couple of things. Are the Kraken, I would not have guessed we'd be here at the All-Star break. Now, I don't know what Vegas does, but there's the Kraken. Tops in the Pacific, 63 points. You said it a while ago. They're a playoff team. Get ready. I didn't think they'd be leading this division by any strength of the imagination. Do you still preach patience if you're Ron Francis? We're a young team, we're building. Or do you look at it, we didn't build our team traditionally, or in the traditional sense of an expansion team. We brought in some older players. We have a roster. Why wouldn't we add now? You talk about draft capital. I would think they've got it out the yinger. Are they a legit threat to add here at the deadline?
I think they're a legit threat to add. I just don't see them being a threat in the rental market. I don't know that it makes sense to be throwing those assets around to get a 12-week run with someone. You're probably going to want a player with term, or someone that you believe you can re-sign in the short order. So I would think that's their focus. Ron Francis is generally pretty conservative in that stance. And I think the other part to look at is, would you make a move for a goalie? I mean, that's the real thing to me, I think, for a team that I like the Kraken, and I think their story has been incredible this year. I think they've also been incredibly lucky. If you take a look at their shooting percentages, they've got Jared McCann shooting 24% from the field. A lot of it is not sustainable. It's been a magical year. They've been able to score like no one's business. But I think they really still need help in net. Martin Jones has steadied them, but he's not a long-term answer and or a playoff answer. So between the Kraken and the Kings, could they be perusing the goalie market? That's where my attention would be if I was Ron Francis, would be to get that position right. Get it right, not just for now, but get it right for the future. And whatever you need to do with Grubauer and the other mistakes that you've made in your expansion draft process, well, then you need to sort those out.
Last one from me. Flames are 50 games in. I know on dailyfaceoff.com you've trotted out a few names that potentially could be fits. Not to say that you're necessarily hearing that, but who are some players that could be on the move that might fit a role in Calgary. So two things there. Names that you think could be potentially on Brad Treliving's radar. And secondly, 50 games and still nothing as far as clarity, it seems, on Oliver Kylington. Do you expect the Flames will get any kind of clarity? How long does that play out? And do you have anything, I guess, on the Kylington situation as we're now heading into the month of February?
During my hours in the Denver airport yesterday, I did revisit the Kylington situation, and I was told nothing new, but a decision is forthcoming. I think each day that this lingers on and he's not on a plane back to Calgary from Sweden, that it's less and less likely that Kylington will be rejoining the team, though nothing is official just yet. I expect that's the way that it's heading, and it is January 31st. I told you that the Flames wanted to get an answer by the end of the month, and so I'd expect news on that soon. And again, not looking good. But 50 games in, I think the larger question is, who are the Flames? You know, I look at this team, and as you watch the standings change on a daily basis, I figured the Flames would get it together at some point. It hasn't happened yet. It's been in fits and starts, and I don't know how good this team is. I really don't. And I think the question is, how big of a swing do you want to take if you're Brad Treliving after already taking a bunch in the offseason? You know, you might say that means that you're pot committed and need to go big and do something. From a name perspective, it's pretty simple. You know, the first top objective and priority, as I mentioned, was getting Kylington, getting an answer. You're going to have $2.5 additional million in cap space to play with. You've got some already, so they can use that to their advantage. It's a scoring winger and potentially or preferably with speed. I think the Blues and Flames have had some conversation. I can't put my finger yet whether it's on Tarasenko or whether it's on Barbashev. I think either one of those would be interesting fits, and reminder that Tarasenko has the full no trade and no move, so he will only go anywhere if he okays it. I don't know how he feels about Calgary, but I do think there's something going on there that would make sense to keep an eye on moving forward.
Yeah. Excuse me. And I was under the impression that in the offseason that Calgary was not something he was keen on. Maybe that changes at the deadline when it's only a few months, but yeah, I wouldn't be holding my breath on that.
Barbashev, I think, is really interesting because I don't think it's going to cost a ton, and I'd give him a pretty long run over the rest of this season to see if you can find something. I think the big question with him is his compete. It wavers from game to game. Obviously, that's not something that's going to sit well with Darryl Sutter, but the skill is there. This is a 26 goal scorer or something like that, 60 points last year. Like he's really struggled this year, but there's clearly some talent there in Ivan Barbashev if you can drag the compete out of him. 26 goals, 60 points last year.
Oh, nothing.
I was going to text Alex here. Alex, do we have the video from yesterday? The video of Tyler Yaremchuk getting the puck in the chin.
Here we are. Look at this.
So there are two things to watch here, Frank. There's the puck.
Boiler.
It comes up. It hits Tyler. There is also the you can see there's Frank Seravalli in the Oiler colored shirt,
White
sweater,
bucket, yeah.
white helmet. really watch the level of concern for Tyler from Frank Seravalli as this plays out. So he's coming in. A lot of the other team kind of come over. Oh, are you all right? And then here comes Frank.
Yeah, I'm good.
Fuck it.
I turned around when he said, I'm good. And just for the record, the guy that made the pass and all of our bosses right there in the ski goggles, I made it further than him. And considering that
That's
I
true.
needed some AED paddles likely to get through the weekend, I think I deserve some credit for that I made it further than the guy who actually threw the rocket, which Pinder deflected into his face.
Well, he can't be trying that nonsense against us.
Part of the game plan.
Dog shit.
That's right. Frank, safe travels to Florida. Say hi to Rhett if you see him down there.
I'm
he's eating
going
lots
to
of
the
biscuits as
whale's
we speak.
rib. I'm going to find Rhett, and we are going to have a night.
Nice. I look forward to the details. Safe travels, buddy.
guys.
Good to talk to you.
Yep.
Frank Seravalli, NHL Insider. We're going to take just a break here. We're going to get set up here in studio. Our guest is here, Mike Soroka, Atlanta Brave, Calgary Kid. Getting ready for a big year. Big interview coming up. It's Barn Burner. Coming right back. Stay there. And back here in the Tower Chrysler Studios in Marda Loop, Boomer along with Ryan Pinder, Barn Burner on a Tuesday. Rhett, I did get a Rhett update. He was...
That's a big order coming.
He sent the photo of a Wave Runner beverage. It's called the Wave Runner.
Okay.
Then some smoked fish dip and lobster bisque. So really just starting to...
had lobster bisque. I feel like he's just warming up here.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's really just dipping a toe in here. Yeah,
so to speak.
Yeah, he's going to put on a clinic.
He's happy. You can see that joy in his face. I don't know that I've seen him look like that since he played.
No question. Pinder report coming up in a little bit for Village Honda, but pleased to be joined. It seems we're in January. It always kind of shocks me anyway. It's pitchers and catchers reporting. Pitchers,
very quick.
It's like, what the hell are we talking about? With baseball, we're talking baseball, but I guess it takes some time for these pitchers to get themselves in order. And our next guest, he's going to be getting on a plane and heading off. He's at the bar right now.
Is he at the bar? Mikey.
He's at the pub right now. There's Mike Soroka.
I don't think that's on brand. I think he's a well-behaved young man.
Not quite yet.
Not yet. Hey, man, good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so we had you in like early. You were the first guest, I think.
I feel like it was late October, early November, something like that. Yeah.
Then you had some stuff going on. You were doing some things. Then you'd be back. So what have you been up to, both work and play, since we saw you back in October?
Yeah, mostly training. It's been a wild few months here. I kind of came home with an injury that expected to calm down, and it didn't quite go as quickly as we thought it was going to. So we were scrambling a little bit, but I got to throw in December. Which was a little later than I had hoped. I'd hoped to kind of get going quite a bit earlier and, get a lot of good work in, and then maybe even have a chance to see what the Braves thought about me joining the WBC. But got going a little late, so that unfortunately won't happen this year. But
what is that process like? You mentioned the World Baseball is it Classic, I believe?
Yep.
To play for Canada would be cool, but also, your job that you get paid for is with the Braves, and we've talked about it. It's been a wild 2-year roller coaster. I'm sure they want to do as much as they can to bubble wrap you, but they also understand you'd want to play for Team Canada. The GM's a Canadian, Alex Anthopoulos.
Sure.
How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, any players, they'd like to keep them in camp. They understand it with healthy track records and everything like that. There's really not much they can do, right? Because you want to go represent your country or pay homage to relatives in other countries. A lot of guys do that with Freddie Freeman doing that for Canada and stuff like that. But with starting pitchers is a little different too, because you got to build up, which basically requires us to get going about a month earlier. And me not having a complete season since 2019 could make for a long year. Which I was okay with at first. I had a lot of work to do, so getting going early would have been the key, and we just didn't get to do that. So it's definitely the point where I understand when the Braves and Alex, we talk about it, and it's just not the right time, but hopefully next time I'm there.
I'm kind of fascinated by pitchers and their bodies and reacting to what their body is telling them. What I have elbow tightness, or I have soreness in my elbow. So is it just sore today? Is it a thing? Yeah. Do I just work through it? Do I leave it? How do you possibly know? I mean, sometimes I guess if it's really sore, but if it's like, gee, it's kind of tight today.
Yep.
So what's the next step in that process?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, because I talk to people about it all the time. They talk about, obviously hockey guys are going out there with split
rub
faces
some dirt on it, play through it. Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't need a upper lip to go play hockey, right? You don't need to play baseball. If that happened in baseball, I'm sure it wouldn't be too much different. And the whole re-entry thing with baseball doesn't do us any good either. You can't take a guy out of the game for one inning and then put him back in,
right?
Till he gets fixed up. But with an elbow and stuff like that, it's tough, because we do play through so much that affects, guys go out there with, tight low back that, they can't quite get through a changeup or a breaking ball, but they can compete, stuff like that.
Blisters. Right.
Yeah, blisters are a tough one too, because I said the same thing. I was like, if you took a cheese grater to your fingers, like I've seen some gnarly ones where I'm like, there's no way you're throwing a baseball with coarse seams, no chance. Not at an MLB caliber, at least. You might be able to massage one over, but I mean, it's just not happening. So I think that's when it kind of crosses a line to where you're definitely out there at a significant disadvantage, and you're not bouncing back. I always found, you're going to be sore the day after you make a start. You throw 100 pitches. 6-7 innings, you're going to be sore, but does that soreness last until the next start? That's kind of where it's
Gotcha. Yeah.
once it's bleeding over to the next start and the next start and the next start, and you feel like you're on a steep decline, that's usually your little notice to say, all right. And yeah, they'll release it to the media as elbow tightness.
Yeah.
Because
Inflammation.
it's not a lie. It's what it is. It's just, we don't know exactly what's going on yet. And sometimes 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, calm down. And then you got to build up again. Right.
Yeah.
So
tell us about building up. That's a term we hear all the time. And I think we kind of understand it, but from someone whose arm is being built up, like where are you now? What is it like when you're at the end of your off season before you start training? And where do you want to be on opening day or even mid-season?
Yeah. So I've thrown a few bullpens now, which is at a great point. It's usually, you typically have about 4 to 6 weeks until you get to bullpens even. And the tough part is that you're used to working at such a high level that if you jump right into it, that's, could spell disaster for your shoulder after not throwing for how many weeks. And ideally, you go into the offseason healthy and you can kind of keep throwing a little bit, if it's 3 times a week, just to keep it going, that would be helpful. And then you wouldn't have to build up quite as much. But we talk about volume, spring training is basically for the starting pitchers. If you ask most hitters, they'll probably tell you I really only need a couple of weeks of at bats to be game ready. Relievers, same sort of thing. They need a few appearances. They got 2 pitches. They only have to throw hopefully 10 to 15 pitches an inning. But for us, we got to be there and we throw live BP early February. And then, hopefully you're in a couple innings by early March. And then every time you go out, you go one more.
Can you in more detail, like more specifically? So you are going, what's the date? You get down there in about a week.
I think I'm
right?
11th thing going down.
Yeah. So you land, it's day 1, you get set up. We'll talk about that coming up. But then day 1 to 2, so it feels like of the 24 hours that are in a day, what is it you're doing at the facility for those 24 hours? Because it feels like they really do kind of ease you in. As you said, some hitters need a couple weeks. Pitchers not the same.
Yeah, when we get there, it's pretty quiet still. It's pretty chill when we get there with the catchers, and there's a lot of guys that are there early, just kind of hanging out, but nothing super structured until the entire team's there. But a lot of it is strength staff, coaching staff, catching up with guys, finding out what the plan is. You have your meetings with analytics staffs. You do your physicals, make sure you're not broken, stuff like that. They want to get that out of the way early in camp and kind of get off on a good start. But I think, it's probably 2 weeks in, and that's when we start doing team fundamentals, and we go through all the stuff, bunt defenses and bunt plays and pickoff plays, stuff that you really only use once the playoffs comes in.
Is it boring?
Right?
Like you're telling it's boring, right?
Sometimes. But the way they've kind of approached it now and the way it used to be was that we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to beat it to death. But now we're going to do it right. We're going to make sure everybody's focused and we get this done here now. And that way we don't have to keep hammering it instead of just being out there all day. But, they've really made spring training a lot more efficient even since I've been in. We used to be there. Like my first big league camp was rookies shouldn't be there any later than about 6 in the morning. That's kind of where it was. And even if you had nothing to do till team takes the field at 8, but now it's a little more like, okay, practice 10 o'clock. It's, get there, have breakfast, maybe get a lift in. And, they've split up all the pitchers so we don't have 45 pitchers taking pitching fielding practice at once, fielding bunts and stuff like that. We split it up so there's groups of 5, 6, and we get to kind of motor through. And it's a lot more efficient than it used to be.
I know last time we had, because it was October, we were like, so what's the contract? And there's now a little uncertainty. Somebody avoided arbitration. I don't know if you saw that. Somebody took them to the clay. They know what they got. And were you happy to get that done?
Yep.
You avoid arbitration and just, okay, let's just go.
Yeah. So I went to ARB the first year. So my first year, and that ended up setting the stage for my next 2, right? Because I never played. So obviously the way it works is if they want to keep you and keep your contract and keep your rights, then they have to kind of give you what they did the year before. So thankfully my ARB team did a good job. We won that one. So that's paid off for me. But
because there could be, you never know, right?
Yep.
Because you had, like you said, you hadn't played. There could be a chance where they're not going to 2.8 million is what I believe the number was. 2.8 million, I believe.
Yep,
It's about
American dollars.
2.8 million for those of you keeping score at home. They could decide maybe we are going to take this money and do something else with it. But I had the quote, Alex Anthopoulos, Soroka, quote, will be a stud again, end quote.
That's what we've been saying. I'm glad he's listening to us. I mean, I don't know what the hell if we know what we're talking about, but we felt that way for a while.
Oh, sure we did, yeah. That feels good, right?
Absolutely. You know, I'll always say, like, Alex has supported me through this entire process. He was one of the best calls I had when I re-ruptured my Achilles. And, you know, I was kind of in a place where I didn't know of anybody that had done that. And, you know, I'm sure you guys mentioned Pacioretty and stuff like that coming up. But, yeah, he was one of the best calls that basically told me, like, look, you know, we've talked to the doctors and everything. And, you know, Jake Berger running with the White Sox, he's back and playing, and he's done it twice. And, you know, if he can do it, you can do it. And that was the main thing. And now, you know, fast forward to this last summer when he allowed me to go work with Bob Keyes down in Utah with mechanics and stuff like that, see a biomechanist and figure out how to give myself a better chance to stay on the field. He was all behind that. And, you know, he supported me the whole way. So, you know, it does feel really good to see that and hear him say that, because, you know, I'm giving everything I got on the backside to get going again. So the goal is to come back and stay out there.
After we had Mike on, because I know you guys and with Rhett, you kind of got into it. Rhett's he's kind of into that sort of stuff, whatever kind of treatment and just the medical field.
Sports medicine stuff, right? It was some real cutting edge stuff. Yeah,
we actually got some reaction about just the state of sports medicine and all of that is this is like witch doctor, you know, they got smoke and sticks and what, you know, are they doing some voodoo stuff or what? Like, was there any part of that was kind of like you're looking at it sideways? Okay, if you say we'll try it, was it ever kind of in your mind that I don't know what we're doing here, this is my body, I need this, we need to do a little more research, or were you good?
You mean as far as like
just all the, like you said, the going to Utah and just because there's a lot of, it's not like you're just doing stretches anymore with tensor bandages, and it's a little different.
Yeah. So the group I work with, we talked about it a little bit last time with their Evo Ultra Fit is their outfit out of Phoenix. And, you know, ironically enough, you mentioned Kays and Tane. They've both been working with them for a long time. And, you know, they're a little more prevalent in hockey and have been for a little while, but kind of bleed into some other sports. And, you know, they're kind of a group that you don't really get to until you've had a bunch of problems and you feel like, you know, this is what I need. And, you know, I've seen some pretty incredible things the last year or so that I've been with them. And it basically revolves on working more efficiently. It's training your body how to turn off and on and be able to recover itself. Like, it's not, like you said, a lot of people, when you explain it, it's like, oh yeah, they're doing voodoo stuff. Like, what is this? Is it really working? And when you get down to the principles of it, it actually makes a lot of sense. And it is off of some older principles. You know, Jay Schroeder, you know, he went over to the Eastern Europe on his own journey in rehab. He was paralyzed and kind of went over there and they got him back walking again. And he kind of took off with that. So, you know, there's some concepts that are a little different. But, you know, once you understand and get there, it makes a lot of sense. And it took a minute to grasp a lot of it and, okay, why am I doing this? But every time it gets explained, it's like, yep, you know, I need to be at my strongest at these wild positions. Like, I'm sure we could pull up some positions that guys in when they're throwing, when their elbows, you know, in front, their hands way behind, you know, it doesn't look like it should happen. And you know, the strain you're actually putting to throw a ball 95 miles an hour, you need things working efficiently, right? So that comes down to just how my body's working, how my muscles are opening up. But you know, biomechanically, that's what we went to look at and found that, I was making a lot of things a lot harder than they should have been for myself in some places that I wasn't getting to anymore. Went back to old videos of high school. I actually threw quite a bit cleaner back then and even early years in pro ball than the last couple. And that's really when injuries started to pile up for me. So that was kind of a cool thing. And that's something that I've talked about with Alex Anthopoulos as well. And I think that's another reason why he's confident that, you know, we got it off the tracks a little bit, but we're on our way back on.
And so this sets the stage for a big spring training for you. We know the last time you were healthy for a season, it was incredibly impactful. You got Cy Young votes. Like, this was incredible stuff. whereas the Braves aren't a middle of the pack, lower third team that it's like, hey, we're happy to bring guys back. They are loaded up, especially with starters. Like, where do you see battle lines, and what do you need to prove this spring? Because, you know, you've been very open about it. Like, you haven't contributed the last 2 years to the club, and there's guys that have, and they've backfilled, understanding that there's a chance, you know, this guy that hasn't been healthy isn't healthy. How do you approach this spring, and what's at stake?
Yeah, I think approaching it as a job to compete is number one. But tempering expectations is also going to be really important for, you know, competing. I think I get back out there and you know, expect everything to be absolutely perfect and pristine is going to be asking a little much. And it's just going to be taking it down day by day, right? Like you said, you show up day one, let's get that out of the way and get that first bullpen going. So once all the eyes are on you officially, that watch all the work that you've put in over the offseason, they haven't seen you. That's going to be number one for me, and kind of setting the stage going forward. But yeah, I think there's one, maybe two spots in the rotation that are up for grabs because of, you know, potentially a 6-man out of spring training. But yeah, no, I mean, we've had some incredible pitching over the last couple of years. We've had some guys really step up. Obviously Charlie Morton, who's 38-year-old Adonis, he's still cruising. And you know, that was another one. He's been huge for a lot of us, huge for Fried in the rotation as well. And Spencer Strider coming up and doing what he did and then signing an extension. There's some guys that are planted in the rotation. So at the end of the day, we all know that competition brings out the best in everybody. And you know, whether it happens or not, that's something that is out of my control. What I can control is going out there and continuing on the work that I've done and kind of trying to not necessarily show it off, but put the head down and you know, keep that fire down lower, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Are you and your roommate fighting for the same job? I'm led to believe that you have a good buddy. He's your roommate, but yet this could be your stiffest competition for a spot in the rotation.
Yeah, pretty well. So Ian Anderson is actually a big Rangers fan, by the way. He's him and I have lived together for the last few spring trainings, and he's got a place down in Northport and lets me kind of shack up with him and for those 6 weeks. So yeah, we're you know, he's been my best friend the last few years, and it's kind of a tough thing because we both know that we've been there before, right? We've both had success in the big leagues, and he's had some incredible success in the playoffs. You know, statistically, I think in that sample size, at least, he's one of the best Braves starters ever in the playoffs.
That's saying something.
Which is
I've
pretty
had some
wild.
good ones, yeah.
You know, we've both had some really good times in the big leagues, and now it's about showing that we can do it again. And again, I think, you know, it's not out of the question that if both of us are there and both looking really good, I think they might do a 6-man because they wouldn't feel like that 6th man is, you know, really a step down from getting back to the number one guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of that's out of our control. We're both fairly mature, I think, to be able to, you know, go do what we need to do. And you know, we wish each other the best also. And we understand that if we're both competing, you know, you need more than 5 starters in a season.
Yeah, totally.
So if one
10.
of us or both of us end up in AAA to start the year, keep going and you know, it'll all pan out.
Or you could just, was it like Lloyd putting in Harry's hot chocolate, their little turbo lax?
Yeah.
Oh, you're starting today? Oh yeah, here, put a little X-Lax in your protein shake. Oh, she's got the shits. Can't go today.
It's a shame.
Soroka, you're in.
I'm ready,
All right,
guys.
sounds
Yep.
good. Yeah, it's a little sabotage. I'm just saying. I know you wouldn't be the guy to do it, but it could be an option. We've talked about just the maturity that we've seen you, just the evolution in you as, you know, as a man and as an adult, and obviously as an athlete. I think that how steep a learning curve is that? How shocked would we be, I think, that with that maturity, and part of being mature is controlling pretty much every aspect of your life. It's sleep, it's diet, it's activities away from the ballpark, away from the facility. Everything you do, I think there's scrutiny on what you're doing 24/7, all year round. It's pretty much a year-round thing now for you, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it has to be. You know, it's always been, you have a chance in the off season to go out and get better and show up to spring training a better player than you left the year before. You know, we heard it from all the greats, and Max Scherzer said it pretty vocally that if he's not getting better, you know, somebody's going to catch up and pass him. And, there's truth to why he's been able to do what he's done late in his 30s, and Verlander, same sort of thing. Now we're seeing 40-year-olds making $43 million a year in Major League Baseball. So, it's a small window when you think about what you're able to show. And again, like, just me being able to show to Alex that I'd taken this as seriously as I possibly can. And it gives people a reason to fight for you, I think is another reason. It's a no-brainer to go do the little things like sleep properly and eat properly and keep training and train the right way. I think that's something that I've learned over the last couple of years, especially, was that, what got me there isn't necessarily what's going to keep me there. I had to change things up a little bit. And that's why I'm working with this group, for health purposes, as opposed to, let me just get big and strong, even though I only need to throw a 5-ounce baseball. So I think, there's just so many things to learn in this game, and it's a constant learning curve. Talking to guys like, Charlie Morton, who said, it took him 10 years to figure out how to throw and not hurt, and then shortly after that, performance came along, and then he's in Houston having a breakout year at 34. But obviously somebody kept saying, Charlie, I believe that this guy's going to find it one day. I want to be that guy. So that's kind of a no-brainer. And, I got time to go sit at the beach in Florida at Rhett's restaurant there. And, I got time to do that in retirement. Today. So, we can do that later.
Well, and if I may, if you want to see discipline, how about Montreal only comes to town once? We got a big Flames fan here. We go to the game.
I was going to say,
meeting up with my Lugan idiot friends and brother, and not nary a sip, not nary an ounce of alcohol. Never mind. Like, this was, I'm like, dude, it was months away, and then. You do you, but that's discipline right there. You're not having a sip with me at a pub before the game.
I was going to say, though, didn't his one outing with you end up with him being sick?
He did end up puking, but I think he was blaming that on a bad shawarma. There wasn't alcohol. There was none taken in, I should say.
Part of the maturity process is to avoid him at all costs. Because again, even when you're trying your best and you're making the right choices, things go sideways. What happened that night?
Yeah, so I go to the Jerusalem Shawarma on 85th Street every day, or I mean 3-4 times a week. They see me all the time. They love me there. I ventured out. I won't say which one, but I tried a different one, and ended up in bad shape. I was like, I had 2 meals after that shawarma, and had to do it because I was training. I was like, I need fuel. I need to go. Kind of tasted like blue cheese. I knew something wasn't good for a while, but I was like, I can keep it down. I had a nice big burger with Pinder. And honestly, I almost wish I had something to drink, because it might have kind of accelerated the process a little bit. But yeah, I had to dip in the third. I was like, man, I feel so bad.
It's just his orbit, Mike.
No,
it's just whenever you're in his orbit.
You would love it. It was classic. So we're sitting, and of course, that happens to be the suite right behind us. Someone's like, Pinder, get up in here. So by the second period, we're in the suite. And I'm like, Mike, if you have to leave, like, I'm with buddies in a suite. You're not leaving me alone here. You're all good. Don't puke at the Dome in the attendance of 18,000 others. Go puke at your own at home. If you're not feeling good, get out of here.
Major league pitcher seen puking at a hockey rink. TMZ.com with the story.
The worst part was at the box. It was the Scotia box, and my girlfriend works for
That's
Scotia
right.
Bank. Her bosses were in there. Had I had to use that box, she would have been in trouble too. So that wouldn't have been
Small
a good night.
world. That was so funny.
Not ideal. You mentioned Verlander, and earlier on you talked about just how violent in some ways throwing a fastball is. You're just everything. Groin, arm, back, the whole thing. You watch guys do it. I just remember Tim Lincecum, watching him pitch. I don't know how,
That's a weird one.
right? Like, just so violent, so aggressive. And then you see guys like Verlander doing it so late in their career. I don't know what I would be looking for. I think we all know a sweet swing when we see it, or a great defensive play by a shortstop. Who do you look at, whether it's stride length or delivery? Who are some of the pitchers for you as a pitcher that you're like, man, that's that's a sweet pitch.
Well, and the word you used was efficient. Like who's a pitcher where you're like, no, that's an efficient movement. That's a guy that isn't going to have his body break on him.
So the ironic part is it's pretty easy to kind of dwindle down that list. And this is where Bob Kai's the biomechanist that I went to see, he's got a 35-year database of, motion captures and handmade
Crazy.
biomechanical data
Yeah.
and a book. Basically, he's got just got a book came out, and they have the data to show you exactly what parts are most efficient, least efficient of your mechanics, everybody's mechanics, right back all the way to Nolan Ryan, right?
No way.
So the ironic part is that the guys that threw real hard and stayed healthy for a long time were also the most efficient in baseball. And some of them did it, a little more naturally, but then there's some that kind of figured it out late. When he kind of boils it down for you and shows you that Randy Johnson and Greg Maddux actually threw pretty similar, they threw pretty similarly, is pretty wild. They do a lot of things.
Different guys.
Yeah,
Very,
but,
very different bodies, very different repertoires.
Yeah.
But a lot of positions they got into at the right time in the right place, and were efficient and did it so well for a reason. Yes, they're talented. Yes, they're gifted and all that kind of stuff. But there was also a reason they were able to remain on the field. And so all those guys, I mean, currently, like, Jacob deGrom's one that people will say, oh, well, he's hurt all the time. And they're smaller things for the most part. And he's also, throwing 100+ miles an hour for an entire outing at, I don't know what he's weighing at right now, but he's a pretty slim guy. Guys like him, Garrett Cole, guys that have thrown real hard. Like, I'm talking like the hardest throwers in baseball. Aroldis Chapman, there's another one. He's been one of the few relievers ever to be able to sit 100+ miles an hour for, what is he in his, like, 12th or 13th year?
Over a decade. That's crazy. Yeah.
So, there's a reason those guys can do it for so long. And again, I kind of refuse to believe that, someone just has stronger ligaments and tendons. It's just not, some guys, they're put together a little better. They can move a little better. They're a little more athletic, bendy, or whatever. But it's no coincidence the guys that stayed around and did it the longest were also the most efficient. So kind of learning where I was going wrong was the biggest thing, and where to get back to the right place. And it's right down from, stride length all the way up to, where your elbow is at the time of foot strike. It's pretty wild.
It's like a golf swing, right? When you're all in your head. Okay, where are my feet? Where's the ball? My hands. It's okay. Where's my club head coming?
I'd say it's even more than that,
right? Like, how do you focus?
Over about 7 feet,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, there you go.
So and that's why they do 3D analysis, because you can look at a picture, you can look at a center field cam and see things, but you're only watching it in
One
two dimension. You can't actually tell how far down the mound he is when these certain things are happening. And yeah, I mean, it's right in the foreword of his book. I think Dr. Peter Chalmers says right there is like, the shoulder rotates at this like 7,000 degrees per second, which is about what a car wheel does at 100 kilometers an hour.
Jeez.
So that's when you put that in perspective, when something's not in the right place at the right time, it can spell disaster. And that's unfortunately a lot of guys get into bad habits, and that's where injuries start to pile up, and hopefully we're on the way out of that.
Well, I know I feel pretty stiff after the pond hockey. So that's probably similar.
Well,
right?
high performance athletes.
My stride length probably just isn't quite right.
It wasn't long. The wooden stick was, though. I feel like you made up for it there.
I disagree with Mike. I think some bodies are made differently.
Well, sure. Diets certainly are as well. I get that. Real quick, 2 years ago, you're before the first rupture to now, how different's your body? Because like you were quite a bit younger, and you also had spent a lot of time rehabbing, but you've also talked about training smarter and training in a way that's going to allow you, in theory, to be healthier, longer, sustain levels. Like, do you feel like your body's composed differently now?
It's in a different world. I mean, and this is where a lot of right now going into the training that I've done recently over the last year. I haven't lifted heavy in a long time, and ironically, doing a lot of the stuff that we've done, I've put on some size, and a lot of it's just getting older and filling out a little bit. But a lot of it is moving within an entire range as fast and as efficiently as possible. And a lot of it's centered around just being a better athlete, being able to use everything that you have to create a whip on the mound. A lot of what they preach and understand as a starter is that you have to remain in a proper position that much longer as a starter into 80, 90, 100, 110 pitches to be able to succeed and remain healthy. So a lot of the work I do is very long holds or very quick stuff repeated every 10, 15 seconds. It's much more specific to what I need and how I detrained for so many years, just picking up big weights, just because it felt good. And I was, happy to be strong and be a meathead, but it just wasn't helping at a certain point. So yeah, it's in a different world.
And ironically, there's more muscle on you considerably, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where, again, getting a little older. I'm 25 now, turning 26 this year. I always say this, that's when you can kind of call yourself a man. The 25 range, you kind of fill out a little bit, but yeah, it is ironic that that's kind of what happened. And these muscles are able to stretch a lot farther and kind of use that band to hopefully create power a little more efficiently.
From your time in the majors, because we're going to go from one kind of conversation where it's about eating right and sleep and all of this and the diet, that whole thing. Have there been some guys, whether on your team, and I'm not looking for you to necessarily throw anybody under the bus, but there will be athletes in all sports who maybe aren't as dedicated, but yet still show up and are at an all-star or close to it levels. Are there some guys that you're like, man, I have so much respect for you for how you can perform on a daily basis, given really how little you.
Who's the Rhett? I think that's what you're asking.
Well, because not all guys live that and preach that kind of.
Well, and you sort of said, like, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom or a dark place before you're willing to revisit those habits.
Because it's baseball, it's every day. You're in this city and that city. It's every single day. There's got to go out and have, unwind every once in a while. And some guys can do it, and some guys play guilty, some can't.
I mean, it's pretty easy to see. I think a lot of people could guess in any sport. A lot of the more truly naturally talented players never kind of had to do that work, so they don't feel like they need to when they're out there. Whereas I'm not saying I'm not talented, because I would pride myself on having some talent in this game, but a lot of where I'm at was because of some of the values that were instilled in me through my dad. Was, if you love it, you got to go for it. We're giving everything you got, and that was way back in high school even. So getting to where I was, I had to put in a ton of effort and work to do that. But I think we see guys when it matches up, they do both, right? You see the Sidney Crosbys of the world and Nate McKinnons that have top talent and learn how to work, and you see the product of it. But baseball is a little different because it's a little more skill sport, and skill can't necessarily be taught as easily as just, we can make you a little more physical, we can make you work a little better, but if you don't have the skill and the quick twitch, somebody like Acuna, he had, from the time I saw him in the Gulf Coast League in rookie ball, he just turned and moved better than everybody else, and that's where he's got that whip. And a lot of the qualities that I'm trying to train for are qualities that he kind of has innately.
Yeah.
And so why would you, right? He doesn't need to squat. He doesn't need to deadlift heavy. He jumps, he walks into spring training when we're testing verticals and jumps a 40-inch vertical and doesn't even really care.
Yeah.
He walks up and says, all right, I'll jump. And then he's got the top score on the team, and that's kind of how it is. But that's why he's able to turn and hit the ball 500 feet. And he's super fast too. So a lot of these qualities that we all train for, some guys kind of just have. So why would you, in a lot of sense? And I get that. And they see, some people, and I could be guilty of this, was getting hurt in the weight room. They would see and say, I'm out. I don't need to. So why am I going to risk that? So it makes sense, right?
It's good Rhett's not here. He'd be like, see, I told you.
It's overworking.
Too
Job
much
justification.
Get rid of the video and get rid. Yeah, he'd be telling you to go eat burgers and not over.
Play guilty. He'd be telling you.
Yeah. So before we let you go, I find it kind of cute how big of a Flames fan you are. One of the first things he's like, geez, if you look at it, it's like 7 points. If we could just get some wins here, gosh, so close. I don't wonder what they're going to do. It's like, sorry, 6 points.
Yeah.
You love this hockey team. You're right into it.
Yeah, it's your first love, right? Like, and we've been over it, and the fact that you guys are on 34th Ave is pretty wonderful. I'd say it's a good omen being a big FACEOFF fan. But like I said, it's your first love, and that's why people ask me about baseball, football. I'm like, I don't really get into football, baseball, same sort of thing, until Blue Jays were, good, and Bautista was hitting all those home runs, but I still was never a massive baseball fan. And I wish I had a little more time to spend on the intricacies of what happens with the Flames and with the NHL. But yeah, I mean, you guys have been great. I see your content on Instagram all the time, and that's been good to keep me up to date. But yeah, it's always your first love, and it's always the team that you feel like the fan for. So when they make trades, and I want to know who they're trading for and why that's a good option. That's why I have you guys. So thank you for that. And yeah, we're hopefully gonna make a push here.
Who do you want in round one? Who do you like? Like Flames versus who makes you feel good? Because it's weird.
You know what though? I was just looking at it, and we don't seem to have a team that you really don't want to run into, kind of like a Boston. You know what I mean? Like on that side, I'm like, stay away from that team. But
I would almost put Edmonton in that category just because it's all PTSD and it's the superstars.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, obviously Winnipeg and what they've been able to do. I think did I go to the Winnipeg game? I think I did with my girlfriend.
Split two, haven't they? Is that what it's been?
But if we ended up against one of those top teams, I wouldn't worry that much. If that's a bad thing to say, I wouldn't, at least. There wouldn't be a team that if we ran into that I'd be like, we should pack it in here this year. So I don't know. Anybody. I'm good for anybody. Let's go.
At that.
I could avoid the Avs if I was picking.
And you notice how he says we. He's I don't think we need to be worried. It's awesome.
He's in.
I like it a lot.
Get him a job at Oilers Nation.
So we're gonna get you a spot in the rotation, and then we're gonna pick a ballpark.
Yeah.
Do it.
We're gonna find
And we are going to fly in, and we're going to bring some of our
Logans.
we're going to bring some of our buddies, and we are going to get right torqued.
Yeah. Chicago would be a good place for that if you want to come there. Or come to Atlanta.
Wearing
Wrigley.
Braves jerseys.
Wrigley would be a great place.
What about San Diego? Because that's an NL team, and that ballpark apparently is unbelievable.
Yep.
I'm not fussy. I just want to go
San Francisco.
watch the big man rip and have some beers. And
Yeah, I'm into that.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's going to happen.
Sounds
no
great.
pressure, but keep that in
great.
mind.
The other
Boom
thing you
and
want to
Pinder-
keep in mind
Boom
is
and
that,
Pinder really want to come to a game,
yeah,
so I should put my best foot forward.
You might be pitching really, really well with no distractions in your life. You don't necessarily need to run into a drunken mob of Canadian idiots at guys, kind of got to get some rest here.
Yeah.
What the hell is this?
Hold
Stop
off
throwing
on the-
beers.
Hold off on the shawarma. I think maybe you realize, but maybe you don't, is how many people really are rooting for you and watch every step of your progression. We're all in with you. We're so pumped for you. And we know that the work you've put in is going to pay off, and this is going to be an unreal year, and Acuni's going to be there, and you guys, it's a big year, right? You got to, I guess that's one thing we didn't really ask you about. For your team, why not the Braves?
That division's unreal right now too.
Mm-hmm. Great division. It's the best division in baseball, in my opinion. It has been for a couple of years, I think. But
yeah, now the Mets are splashing cash like crazy. It only makes it better, right?
Always almost the Correa deal, but it was
might still be. We don't know. It's
Yeah,
off and on and off and on. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's exciting to be in a division like that, and especially what happened last year, with like 10 games out and came back and took it all. So yeah, it'll be a great year, and thank you guys for the support, and thank you to everybody who's out there. I see it when I'm actually at Flames games. I get stopped here once in a while. Nice. Probably from being on your show now. People have seen me, and
I'm sure that's
now a lot of times they kind of knew the name, but now all of a sudden, the face is starting to show a little more in Calgary. So hopefully give them a good reason to cheer this year. And
we switched to video, right? So I mean, obviously
that's what it is. Yeah, not the fact that he's enormous. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for coming by. You can hang out for a little bit. You don't need to run. You can watch Pinder do the Pinder report. It's really amazing. It's not.
I think I told Reese when Reese was meeting at the facility at noon here.
Yeah,
so
you get out.
We're good.
You can watch this on YouTube later.
Thank you guys.
You betcha.
Calgary ambassador and beauty, Mike Soroka. Hell out of here.
It's harder to get flights more expensive to San Diego.
I don't know. Is there seasonally direct flights? We're gonna have to look into this.
Go?
San Fran, you can go direct from here. That's a great ballpark too.
It is.
If it's summer, great weather.
Never been to that ballpark.
If you want to get beaten up, we could go to Philly. Frank's there. He's a season ticket holder. You could probably get us a line on seats.
I do like getting
a divisional opponent
beat up. Yeah. Anyway, that'd be a great trip.
Yeah, I don't
care where we go.
Again, just like Frank saying, let's cancel the game and drink tonight. I'm in. Yeah.
All right. Pinder report.
Let's do it. Let's go.
All right. Let's do it. For Village Honda, they of course are your dealership for life in the Northwest Auto Mall and online, villagehonda.com. That new CRV hybrid, it's there. Stop in, road test it today, and get one of your own. Here's the Pinder report.
All right, we start with the Calgary Flames. Nothing. Crickets. I've seen pictures of people on boats in Mexico. I don't. We don't have an update. It's a bye week, Dean. Don't ask me about the Flames. There's nothing going on. They'll play on Monday, Feb 6th on Broadway.
We need a Sharpie. We got to get the big man to sign these things before he leaves.
Oh, we do.
I know. I'm very. No,
I'm glad you paid attention to that.
Yeah.
Also, his buddy that he's pitching against, the roommate, Rangers fan.
Yeah,
he's a Flames fan. Feb 6. Sure. MSG. That would have been fun too.
And Cup final.
Cup final as well. That's right. It'll be Zibanejad and out there against Lindholm.
Yeah,
two Swedes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Let's go to the NHL last night. The Jets hosting the Blues for the only game on the entire sked. Have a look at Calgary boy, Josh Morrissey, down 2-0 early in the third. Is he pumped? Have a look.
What a great goal.
I mean, he puts it off post and in.
Yeah.
And is he pumped?
Yeah, he's pumped. Let's go.
Bleep and go. And they did. Down 2-0, turned it into a 4-2 win. He'd score another 2 for Scheifele, 2 for Morrissey, who now has 52 points in 52 games.
Decent.
You like point per game defenseman?
Yeah, it's okay.
And are they looking for a captain, or are they just going to wait till next year to give it to this guy?
And
He's a mega stud.
You mentioned Calgary guy, great guy,
mature kid.
Happy for him with turmoil in life and has been dealt a few things. Awesome to see him coming out on this side better
100%.
than ever.
3 games slate tonight. Let's take a peek. It's very light here. Only 2 games tomorrow, and then we're right into the All-Star festivities. Kings at Canes is particularly interesting to Flames fans, as we are hoping LA could maybe have a little tumble here before the All-Star break and allow the Flames a better chance of getting into a slot there. Ottawa, Montreal, we'll see what happens there. Betway Bets of the day later, we'll be mentioning that one. And Caps at Blue Jackets. Johnny Cheese Pizza at home there for that one. I don't know where that season's at. Big trade yesterday in the NHL. Bo Horvat on the career year, shooting 22%. Captain, on pace for 50. An Islander. Dean, which contender would get him? None of them. A team on the bubble would get him as he becomes an Islander. They're only a few points out of the playoffs, but the games played aren't Evie Stevie. It's a little bigger gap when you look at the points percentage. They give up Anthony Beauvillier, middle 6 winger, Atu Ratu, as Frank Seravalli pronounced his name, who I think many people think will be a number 3 center. The Canucks clearly think he could be better than that when they added him as such a principal point of this package. And a first rounder that'll either be this year, if it's 13 or later, or if it's a top 12 pick that the Islanders end up getting, meaning they would have missed the playoffs or have won the lottery. That'll slide to next year's where it's unprotected. It could be the first overall pick next year, and it still goes to Vancouver. We need to see where that pick is before we can really see how big this haul is that the Canucks get.
I think by now, Beauvillier is 25. So I think we
is what he is.
An idea about a fine player,
half
right?
point per game winger. It's not a hard thing to find in the league. He's making probably a little too much money, and they already have a ton of wingers, but he's not a bad player.
And if Ratu can, I just remember going into that draft, there was some buzz about him, and then it went away.
Yeah, and he went 52nd.
And you wonder, is that just one of those things that happens in a draft year? Kid's 20 years old. I don't know. I defer to the guys that have really watched him closely. So.
And the Swedish GM probably has a good clue about him, right? Of the Canucks. Sounds like they're really high on him, which would make sense. Let's go to how this deal came to be. It was an Islander heckler finding Lou Lamoriello, letting him know what to do here. Lou, hey Lou. He says a couple other names.
Lou Lamoriello. Timo Meier, yo. Acquire Timo Meier. Hey, Lou Lamoriello. Timo Meier, baby. Bo Horvat. Come on, man. 19 shots on goal through 3 periods of play. What the fuck is that?
Jeez.
Come on, man.
Poor Lou. He's in his 80s having to deal with New York hecklers. So, I mean, he's halfway there. He's got Horvat. All they got to do is bring in Timo Meier, and this heckler's living his best life, right? And Lou isn't afraid of making the big cuts here. He's made a ton of big deals of late. Remember, it was a first rounder for J.G. Pajot. They moved a first for Romanov.
Mm-hmm.
He also sent out Devin Taves, who's a very good player, for a pair of seconds. Palmieri and Zajac for a first from the Devils a few years ago. He's not selected in the first rounds of 2019, as Frank alluded to. That's a lot of punting away firsts on this core that's a little longer in the tooth already. Here's a clip from an article on The Score noting, the firsts, they don't exist since this guy's taken over. He's moved every single first round pick from 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023, unless it's top 12, then it'll be next year. And I don't know that any of those guys there are mega studs. They're all good players, but is there any great players in there? They're also all over 30, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Like the Pajot was a big price. And I think everybody would love to have Pajot on their team. And it was, they're going to re-sign him. Okay, well, yeah.
And they did immediately.
But he's still JG Pajot.
Yeah, he's probably the third best center now. That is the one thing I don't really understand. They didn't need a center. Barzal, Nelson, Pajot, Cizikas. That's 4 deep, pretty good.
Maybe
I wonder
Sweet
who
Lou's
moves
got
to
more
the wing. Maybe it's Barzal to the wing.
And that's the thing with Lou. You never see it coming.
Yeah, that's fair.
So could he be done? Is there more to come? Hard to say.
Here's the criticism they're facing. One of the oldest teams in the league, on the fringes of a playoff race, one of the worst prospect pools in the league. This will be their 4th straight year with no first rounder, and they moved their top prospect for a rental until he's extended, which Frank's suggesting it will be done. Incredible. That's a tweet from...
You said it earlier, though. Until you know what A, the kid is, and B, where the pick is. If it's a top 3 pick next year,
oh my goodness, it's a haul for
it's
Vancouver.
a bit of a better deal for Vancouver.
But it's the Isles that's really confusing, because what happens if you lose your next 5? Are you really like? Wouldn't you be better turning this around and trading him to Boston or Colorado?
But like you said, if it would be more about getting the player now, an extension would be in place, and
I guess
one of your opponents isn't getting it.
The Canucks weren't allowing teams to talk to the Horvat camp, at least publicly. That's what we'd heard. I don't know if that changed, if Lou's just really confident, or if Lou's just willing to pay him too much money. Because you can't pay him to be a 50-goal guy. It's not who he's ever going to be again. He might do it once in his year, and if it's any year, it's year he's shooting 22% this year. We'll see.
I mean, you could if you wanted to pay him to be a 50-goal guy.
Finally, Atu Ratu, you'll like this. Incredibly creative hockey nickname, which I know we always have appreciation for the creativity of hockey players.
Yeah.
They're playing chess, not checkers. He goes by the handle Rats. Rats.
Got it.
Okay. So there's Fabes. Little Fabe. Let's get to the NFL. There's a lot on that trade. We'll spend more talking about it, I'm sure, later in the week. It's just pretty quiet in the NHL with All-Star Week upon us. NFL, did you see this? Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. You got to love when you bring the kids into the press conference, because anything can happen. Have a viewing here, would you? He's got a couple sons and a daughter sitting at the press conference table with him, talking about that big win, off to the Super Bowl. Look who's having fun.
Each game's a little bit different, but it was great to set the tone there and get the lead, right? And get the lead and put them behind. Taylor, stop it. Taylor. Each game's a little bit different.
Love it. Don't know why I like that, but I liked it.
Taylor, stop it.
Taylor, right now.
God damn it.
Patty says, cut it out. Nick excuse me, I keep calling him Nick. Big save, Nick. Brock Purdy. Remember when
you're using the wrong name.
Using the wrong something. People were questioning why he wasn't back in the game. What's going on here? Well, when you tear your elbow ligament, I guess maybe you're not soft. It's actually quite admirable you even came in to hand off the ball at later portions of that game.
And what is that now? Surgery in 6 months?
Yeah, I think they're going to go see a second opinion, but the prognosis for a typical, torn, it's Tommy John, pretty much. That's not ideal. And how about this? Josh Allen not going to the Pro Bowl, but allows us to see star quarterback Tyler Huntley, as he somehow is an alternate for the Pro Bowl.
Snoop Huntley. Yeah, I took 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions
on the season.
For
if that
Tyler
doesn't
Huntley.
Scream Pro Bowl, like, is everyone else not available? How the hell do we get to Tyler Huntley?
658 yards in passing, that put him 48th overall in the NFL.
Well, that's what the Pro Bowl is all about, I guess. Finally, it made me smile. My brother sent me a video the other day. Big Jeopardy fan. You watch Jeopardy? I know you're.
No, I don't.
You don't. I don't really either. But when the Trailer Park Boys and the Trailer Park Isms slide into Jeopardy, the Canadian show has made it big. Check out this category they had in the last few days. Worst case Ontario, which is how we'll end the Pinder report today. Worst case Ontario, you fast forward through a bad Pinder report.
How would Bubbles tell us about Village Honda?
You can't be drinking like Julian, but if you're sober, not growing dope like Ricky, head up to Village, dealership for life.
7663 110th Ave Northwest, villagehonda.com online. They want to buy your car. Sell it to them today. You'll get paid in 24 hours. No hassle. Get your no obligation appraisal done today.
Frickin' Anthony handing out crisp hundies for your car. Get your ass out there. What do you need? Carts?
And then the
Shopping carts?
you know what? It's so stupid.
It gets you every time.
It gets me every time. There's nothing I can do.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Okay.
Today is the final day of January, which means, and I told you this last week, going to do it again, Vina Nova.
Oh, it's coming, man.
Valentine's Day, Feb 14. It will be here. How do you think? I got time. Maybe you got time. Let that be in the front of your head. Vina Nova. Stephen Avenue Place, second floor, Vina Nova, the lab-grown, Calgary's only specialized spot for lab-grown diamonds. Justin and his staff are doing it better than anybody else, and the savings that you're going to experience and that you're going to get are so worth it because the diamond you're getting is, in many cases, better. Justin, he told me that first time because I just thought, wow, you're a gemologist or whatever it is. You get that thing there. Oh, yeah, I can see it's clearly. Can't.
Well, it'd be fewer imperfections because you can control the environment it's made in. Yeah.
You cannot, in some cases, tell at all. And sometimes, the one with imperfections, oh, that's the real one. How about the one that's perfect? VinaNova.com. More details on, maybe there'll be a little something coming your way for Valentine's Day. Just keep it in the front of your mind. VinaNova.com. VENANOVA.com.
Don't screw up Valentine's Day, you guys. Really don't.
Well, especially when we're here to help. That's why it's like
we're giving you all the notice here
because it is easy to muck it up.
It's on the calendar. Like, just know the sooner you get there,
that's right,
the more time you have to make everything.
Do it.
Perfect.
Just do it. There it is.
Write that down right now. St. Valentine's Day.
Betway Bets of the day, and we'll get out of here.
3 games in the NHL tonight. I imagine you're leaning that way.
I am going to the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the LA Kings. The Canes have won 5 in a row. The
win streak in the league they're riding, I believe.
And the Kings, they've got some wins. I think they got 6 in their last 10, but they've beaten some. It's been some low-hanging fruit.
Chicago and isn't that a bad team? Columbus.
San Jose, I think, was one of their wins in there as well. So I'm going to go to the Sebastian Aho well a couple of times here. He has 7 goals in his last 4 games, and in his last 10 games has points in all but one of them.
I like that.
Canes money line and a point for Sebastian Aho, plus 115. And I'm going to go to the goal, as it's not big game hunting, but it's a little bit more perhaps risky. Sebastian Aho, anytime goal, plus 162. I like both of them. You're getting plus on both. I like them both. Those are my bets of the day.
Yeah, with Chicago and Philly, they beat both by 1 goal and 1 in overtime. 2 cellar dwellers nearly got the Kings the other day. I also like the Hurricanes. I'm on them tonight. I'm going to go Hurricanes minus 1.5. That's the puck line. That's plus money. So beat them bad or just add an empty netter. Whatevs. I'm also going to focus in on the good Eastern Canadian matchup tonight. Sens at Canadien. Brady Tkachuk, 2+ points, plus 162. The Habs have embraced the tank, finally.
Alex is very excited. He's very happy with you.
Well, it's got to be. I mean, if you can't beat the Habs, you're never coming back to the Betway Bets of the day. So, Brady, have a good night. Get your fat ass in front of the net. Tip some pucks.
That's right.
Create some chaos. Bang some in. Let's go.
Betway Bets of the day. Get the app on your phone. Be 19 years of age. Be in Ontario. Be so responsible. I mean, it's have fun or whatever. Please be responsible.
We hit that Morrissey 2-point night last night, too.
Attaboy.
Catching.
Attaboy. Tomorrow on the program, Canucks talk? More Canucks talk tomorrow?
It's actually Flames talk too, as our pal and phenomenal broadcaster Scott Rintoul, who's been out in Vancouver forever, has like a mini series on the West Coast Express. Now that sounds very Canucks heavy because it is, but recall Todd Bertuzzi spent some time in Calgary at the end of his career. Recall Marcus Naslund and that group had to play without Todd Bertuzzi in the 2014 playoff, or excuse me, 2004 playoffs, where then of course famously Rhett went to the final. Brendan Morrison eventually came out to be a Calgary Flame, and there's some other tie-ins with Rhett as well. As we'll talk to him about the chaos in Vancouver and his new miniseries coming out that happens to be a couple former Flames, one of the best lines in hockey for a while.
And it's one of those things that a bit of the nerd in me when it comes to this. It's a documentary podcast form.
Yeah.
That I think this is really where the success in the digital space, you see a lot of that becoming more and more prevalent. I think it's awesome for Scotty because there's really no template or roadmap for any of this stuff that we're doing. He put a ton of work on this.
Rhett comes up a bunch, he said. He said there's a lot of weird coincidences that Rhett was right in the middle of. So I'm hoping he can join us for a bit of it, or at least we'll be able to enlighten him when he's off the beach. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, he do I have an update on his food?
Oh, look at this. There he is, in his happy spot.
Oh, he's so happy.
That's probably how it looks to him right now. It's a little bit blurry.
Blackened mahi Key West is the sandwich he was having.
So when you say Key West, is that a particular sauce or aioli they put
I don't
on
know.
it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Is it a style of sandwich?
He thought to include it, so I'm sure it matters.
So that would be added to the lobster bisque, the fish dip.
That's right.
And the
Wave Runner beverage.
Yeah, the Wave Runner.
It's going to be about a $500 tab.
Never mind the shoveler and the kids.
Looking forward to tomorrow's show already. Can't wait. Hope you'll join us for it. Thanks to Soroka for coming in. And thanks to you for the bubbles.
Oilers Nation sucks.
See you, buddies.